What comes to mind when we talk about the Targaryens' legacy? The dragons are certainly part of their legacy, a symbol of conquest and power. Uniting the Six Kingdoms is another Targaryen legacy that everyone in the Seven Kingdoms will remember. Aegon's dream is also a legacy, even if passed from king to heir. However, there's also an unspoken legacy that most wouldn't think of when thinking of Targaryen legacy, which is war. Ever since Aegon's conquest, the Targaryens fought to keep dominion over the lords, the faith militant, and the faith of the Seven. Jaehaerys managed to keep the Seven Kingdoms at peace, ceaselessly struggling to juggle the issues of such a vast kingdom. However, during his reign, the seeds of war were planted. The Great Council of 101 was summoned to decide who would be Jaehaerys' heir, a mistake that created a rift between the Velaryons and the throne. The truth is, Jaehaerys didn't want to have a similar issue to that of Viserys' succession issue, so he allowed the lords to choose their king or queen. Princess Rhaenys was the daughter of Jaehaerys' eldest child, Prince Aemon. She would have had the throne by seniority. Even the good Queen Alicent was wrathful with her husband's decision and basically went to Dragonstone for a year and didn't speak with her husband for a year. One of the many consequences of the Great Council was that Princess Rhaenys formed a grudge against the realm, and her husband, Corlys Velaryon, took a slight to the decision made too. From what we can see in the show, Rhaenys does seem to hold a grudge against the monarchic system, not necessarily towards her cousin, and perhaps that avoided a civil war then. Her love for her cousin and children might have overcome the desire to go to war, since in the present she seems to have accepted her fate fairly well. Corlys did seem to form a similar grudge, but to benefit himself, his own son and daughter, not necessarily to defend Rhaenys' birthright as he claims at first. Corlys deems legacy far more important than justice. He is an ambitious man. But no matter the intentions of each character, Jaehaerys was the first Targaryen to form a rift in the family. Only years later did another rift open. Alicent and Rhaenyra's relationship was a major contributor to the beginning of the Targaryen Civil War. Either in the book or the show, we have plenty of reasons from both of them for their conflict. First of all, Alicent married Viserys shortly after Aemma died, which a young Rhaenyra saw as a betrayal from both her father and her friend. Worst of all, Alicent had Aegon, which likely unearthed a sentiment of jealousy in Rhaenyra, who for years suffered for wanting the proper attention from her father without Viserys wanting a son above all else. In episode 3, we realize Rhaenyra doesn't necessarily want to be heir, but to be worthy of her father's affection, thus making her jealousy worse once Aegon is the center of attention. Years after, the Queen and Princess rebuild their friendship, but this time Rhaenyra takes a jab at Alicent while lying about her involvement with her uncle Daemon, also omitting what she had with Sir Crispin. Later, Alicent finds out that Rhaenyra indeed lied. Of course, when Rhaenyra marries Laenor Velaryon, she has 3 strong boys, further making slights at her family, especially Alicent, who seems to care far more than Viserys. Because of her sons, many lords question even more Rhaenyra's right to inherit the Iron Throne. A Targaryen should sit on the throne, not bastards! Until now, what I've numbered is basically personal slights, not worth starting a war for, except for Rhaenyra's boys. The children grow up mostly alienated from these conflicts. We see Aegon, Jaehaerys and Lucerys mock Aemon in a very childish manner, which happens to most of us. The pink dread scene depicts how normal these children are. Most scenes involving the children are very innocent, free from the shackles of grudges. That is, until Aemon fights with Lucerys and Jaehaerys, Baela and Rhaenyra. As I see it, no pun intended, that was the moment we saw the grudges pass from Rhaenyra and Alicent to their children. Firstly, Rhaenyra had just seen Aemond claim Granny Vhagar, who she revealed she wanted to claim for being her mother's dragon. For that alone, she gained the sympathy of the other 3 children. Jaehaerys and Lucerys then got mad because Aemond called them bastards, which of course a child could have only heard from his mother, grandfather, or anyone gossiping. When Viserys doesn't do anything for his child, who's just lost an eye, I imagine Aegon and Aemond couldn't see the Blacks or their father the same way they did before. At the dinner scene before Viserys' death, the children seem to have no ill will between them, until Aemon, who has the most grudges against the Blacks, kills the mood with a bastard joke. When the war starts, Aemon feels guilty over murdering his nephew, despite all the bullying he put him through at Storm's End and before in the dinner scene. If only their mothers had settled their differences sooner, they might have gotten along. As viewers, we must understand that the conflict between Alicent and Rhaenyra branches onto their children. The dance is the culmination of feelings and trauma passed on to other generations. The personal grudges are so deep that even children carry them within, not knowing that burden isn't theirs. Even Alicent and Rhaenyra suffer from the parents' mistakes. Rhaenyra suffers because the realm and her father preferred her to be a nice little lady instead of a dragon rider and heir to the Iron Throne. Alicent suffers more than Rhaenyra because even Rhaenyra finds some solace in Viserys trying to be the best father he can after Aemma's death. Otto Hightower doesn't try to understand or get to know Alicent to help her achieve the future that best suits her. Not even the death of Alicent's mother changed Otto's point of view regarding Alicent's future, unlike Viserys. Victim of her father's manipulation, Alicent sees duty above all else in detriment of her happiness, even if what she's doing has dubious intentions. In episode 4, the mirrored scene between Rhaenyra and Alicent, the pleasure house and the royal chambers, says everything we need to know about these characters and what really matters to them, and what Alicent does to remain a dutiful wife and daughter. Even through an uncomfortable experience, Alicent remains a puppet to the men in her life. Nothing indicates that Alicent is happy with her marriage, nor her life in general, since she claims she has had no friends since she became queen. Alicent gained nothing from becoming queen. Only after Viserys' death, Alicent takes back the reins to her life, fighting against the current by defying Otto. It is too late for Alicent, as it is for Aemon, to realize the severity of their actions. If only Alicent had torn free sooner from Otto's manipulation, maybe she wouldn't have passed on her ill feelings towards Rhaenyra, all the trauma as well. Her children could have gotten along with their elder sister Rhaenyra too. The Princess of Dragonstone has overcome the jealousy towards her brother, since it's never mentioned again after episode 3. Instead, the burdens were passed on from generation to generation, climaxing into the Dance of Dragons. The younger generations that will later join this war will be strangers to what really started this war. Not being there, witnessing the key events that marked both Greens and Blacks, They want to know the true family feuds for what they are. For Aegon III and Viserys II, for example, this is a war for the throne, and they only know that the Greens are their enemy. They want to know why they must battle for something they don't quite understand. In their case, the burden is a more abstract one, but it's still heavy on their backs. From the Conqueror to the Targaryens in House of the Dragon, the Targaryen histories are full with fire and blood, making war part of their legacy. The only thing that could tear down the House of the Dragon was itself. Do you also think that if Alicent and Rhaenyra had found common ground, the war wouldn't have begun, or do you think they all just need, good therapy sessions? I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.